Hello, Panthers. Welcome to Sips and Skills, a bi-weekly coffee talk about soft skill development in the workplace. My name is Abby Straczynski, and I manage student and young alumni programming for the UWM Alumni Association. Every other week, I am joined by an awesome Panther alum to talk a little bit about their career and the role that soft skills have played in their lives, both personally and professionally. Today, we are joined by Laty Johnson. Laty's a two-time Panther, two-time UWM grad, receiving degrees in linguistics and French, as well as a master's in administrative leadership and education. Laty's a proud Panther and very active in the UWM Alumni Association as a mentor, as well as a captain for Northern California, where she lives and works in HR for a global tech company. Today, Laty and I are gonna depart a little bit from our typical Sips and Skills format. Instead of discussing one skill, Laty's going to share a little bit about her life approach, which she describes with the acronym F.R.O.G.S, F-R-O-G-S. Welcome, Laty. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we dive into the meaning behind F.R.O.G.S, the first question I always ask during this alumni coffee talk is, what are you sipping on this morning?
Well, I am drinking out of my favorite mug, and it's hot tea and honey.
Wonderful.
Drinks, one of my favorite drinks.
Super sized, I see as well. Excellent. So what is F.R.O.G.S? Can you break it down for us?
Sure. There's definitely a meaning behind F.R.O.G.S, and it goes back to, I would say, fourth grade, and even probably before then. So it was back in fourth grade when, that's when I learned how to plant things in 2-liter bottle terrariums. But it was also a time when, as a fourth grader, I was actually bullied and put in a water closet by some classmates. And it was in that time where it was really, very scary. And my teacher found me and got me out. And one of the things that I just remember her telling me is to, be higher than the people that try to put you down. And it resonated with me. And I thought about, what does that mean? How do I do that? And it was part of a shift. And I really remember as a young person, just thinking about, okay, how do I deal with situations that are tough? And it was important to start thinking about organizing what needed to be done, looking at what I had and what I still needed. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was building the foundation of F.R.O.G.S. So it was the start of it. And then in that mindset of, organizing my thoughts, having a plan and executing, and then reflecting on that, reflecting on whatever happened. That is something that I continue to do throughout elementary school. And I pursued the spelling bee. I won the spelling bee. I went in high school. I got selected to the United Nations school. And all of it was because I had a goal in mind. I analyzed what I had within my skills and what I still needed to, what my weaknesses or what my gaps were, created a plan, executed it, and then, reflect and share what I've learned with others. So I continue to do that. And I think part of it was also related to my experience as a first generation low income student coming, going through the school system. And it did require to constantly have that reflection and analysis. And so fast forward to 2001, and 2001 was a really tough year in America. That was, the tragedies happened that year in September 11th. My father also passed away that year. But before he passed away, he told me about the story of how we came to America and all of the challenges he and my mom went through. But in the process of going through those things, he talked about how important it was for them to create a plan to get out of the war-torn village that we were in, and to look at their, what they had within themselves, but also what they needed to execute and get us to safety and make a better life for us here in America. So when he told me those stories and I thought about what I had gone through from elementary through high school, that was my aha moment. Like there's something about my past and my connection to my family. There's something up with that. It was also the year in 2001 when I was invited to be a graduation speaker. So, in that year, I wondered, what can I provide to students who had also experienced the tragedies of September 11th, whether directly or indirectly? There was a lot of pain and there was a lot of confusion going on. And I paused and I thought about how, what did I do consistently that, that I can share with these graduates. And that's when I reflected on not only the stories that my father told me, but I thought about how in high school, I noticed in one of our science videos that there was a frog that was leaping across the screen, and you could see that frog was stretched out and was pretty determined that it was going to reach that lily pad. So thinking about the frog imagery and the situations in my life, it really came together, and I knew that frogs had to be part of it. But when I looked at the word frog, I thought, oh my gosh, it just came to me that this stands for something. You're finding your strengths and weaknesses, remove your obstacles, organize your tasks, give your best effort, share your success. And that's what F.R.O.G.S stands for. That's what I used in my life as a young person, all the way through tragedy, through excitement. I used F.R.O.G.S as a way to guide my mindset on how to approach challenges and opportunities. And it's really something that I didn't know what I was doing it as a young person, but it's something that I continue to do even nowadays.
Awesome. I love how you came to the frogs analogy. I think one time we were talking about this as well, and you mentioned that frogs also only jump forward. And that was kind of another part of like this analogy keeps propelling us forward in, reaching our goals, achieving our goals through difficult times and challenging times. How did specifically, so you talked a little bit about elementary school, and then you talked about your time, your opportunity to speak at graduation in 2001, but how else has the F.R.O.G.S mentality played a role since graduating from UWM, and the work that you do now, or the work that you've done since graduation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I mentioned, I use the F.R.O.G.S mentality in however I approach a situation. So when I am looking for a new role, like a new job, or even thinking about entering a new industry. For example, I've worked in education for over 15 years in higher education and in K-12 on the administration side, not in the classroom. But when I decided to go to a different industry and move into technology, I went through that F.R.O.G.S mindset, and I thought, okay, what are my skills? What are the areas of my gap? What is my plan to fill those? And in doing that research, I was able to not only reach out and connect with professionals who could help fill those gaps, but also I tapped into resources to help strengthen my skills in those areas and make me a viable candidate for those jobs. So that's how I use it for, in my professional career. I also do regular project management and projects in my role. So again, that's definitely something where I use F.R.O.G.S in analyzing the different projects. So I feel like I use it all the time. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it is something that no matter where I went, no matter what company I worked with, as long as I applied the F.R.O.G.S mindset or F.R.O.G.S approach to a situation, it helped bring things in a more clear picture so that I can actually execute and really get the job done.
Yeah, I love that. I love kind of streamlining the different sort of skills that you need and you use on a regular basis. Now there are sort of 5 skill sets within your F.R.O.G.S analogy. Are there tangible steps that you've taken to like really hone any of those in particular or all of them in general, to kind of create this solid framework that helps you in your personal and your professional life?
Sure. So I think the first part is define your strengths and weaknesses. So very specifically, analyze yourself. There are a lot of resources out there where people can do self-assessments. They can determine what color they are, what kind of personality they are, but do something and really get to know yourself before you can really decide what is it that what are the gaps? What is it you want to achieve? So I've done different assessments, and honestly, once you've done it, check back on it. I read my the profile that came about from some of these assessments, and at least on an annual basis, because it helps see, yep, is this right, or nope, it's not right, or perhaps things have changed. But there's no one that's going to know you better than yourself, and so that's something I think is very tangible, is to invest your time to do an assessment so you have some starting point. And then when you have identified some gaps that, for yourself, then look at some resources that are available to help fill those gaps. So I'm very, very strong advocate for professional learning. So I do a lot of videos, and I do them, early in the morning or late at night, and they're free. There's a lot of resources online. And you can, sometimes I'll have a training video playing in the background while I'm washing dishes. It's something that, that is important, and you put time into it. So, but it's important that you put dedicated time to it if it's something that you want to see some sort of change. So, make that investment in the time. And then the removing your obstacles, organizing your tasks, give your best effort. Removing your obstacles, it relates directly to having a plan and knowing what your obstacles are. So I don't want to over plan or over engineer, but sometimes it's a good thing to at least have some options available, and you thought about them in advance. There's always two options, right? Do something or do nothing. And so I always try to find that third option, like, what if I do something, what does it specifically look like? And so if you spend a little time to think about it, that's something very, I think, very concrete that you could do, that I do on a regular basis. And then the sharing your success, the S in F.R.O.G.S, is honestly the most important one for me. And that is because a lot of what happened in my past is directly related to people who reached out and shared their lessons learned or their time and volunteerism with me. And that's really helped make me who I am. So I think it's important to give back, and it doesn't mean, give all your money, but it does mean give what you can, particularly to causes that you care about and to people that you want to make a difference. So I feel like that's why I'm involved in UWM. I loved my experience, but that's also why I get involved in my community and in our schools, because I want the kids to have opportunities, because I know what it's like to be the first to go through school, on to college, and my parents didn't speak English, but they were committed to supporting our education. And no matter, how that looked for them, it didn't mean they were at every school meeting, but it did mean that they made time for me to participate in school and drop me off and pick me up and, keep me safe. Like those are things that they did to help me. And so I find ways to share my success in everything that I do. Like, so that's a really strong, important piece of the whole F.R.O.G.S mindset, is it doesn't end when I've finished the task, but I need to do that last step, which is share your success. And that could be even help sharing the lessons learned and helping someone else prevent, maybe it wasn't a successful project, but if I could help somebody in, avoiding some of the pitfalls, however I can, that's important. So those are some of the ways that I try to use my F.R.O.G.S mindset and really do it in specific ways.
Excellent. Looking back at your time at UWM, I know that you started to develop this idea much younger, much before college, but is there one memory of your time at UWM that jumps out to you where this like frogs mindset really came in handy? Do you have an example you can share?
Yeah, I think the big example was when I had pursued the student association student government role. um, I was, I was selected to be vice president, and I ran to be president the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely was full blown frogs mindset where, I need to show up and really show people and show them through my actions, but also show them my track record of how I consistently did these did things on behalf of students. And honestly, when I applied the frogs mindset to it, it was something that made it a lot easier. And it was a huge milestone to win and be, I think, the first Southeast Asian student government president. That was phenomenal. It was also a year where we had our first female chancellor at UWM. So Dr. Nancy Zimpher started at UWM, and at the same time that I started my presidency,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a great mentor. She invited me to all these meetings. She, we didn't always agree, but I could see that she thought through what her position was, and
Mm-hmm.
she did her research. As students, we had to also show up and do our research and be prepared. So I think we got along because we we both had the best intentions of our community in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it really made for a great working relationship, even if we didn't agree all the time. And that's really important, is you don't always have to agree, but you need to make sure that you've done your research
Yeah.
before you, come at the other group. And you don't have to do it in a very attacking or forceful way, but you got to really do your research.
Yeah.
And so that is completely the FROGS mindset, in my opinion.
What a great example. Okay, so before we wrap up, can you just go through the acronym one more time so that everyone listening solidly knows what frogs means as they leave this conversation?
Sure. FROGS is F, find your strengths and weaknesses. Remove your obstacles. Organize your tasks. Give your best effort. Share your success. That's the
Fantastic.
mindset.
Awesome. And Laty, if students or young alumni who are watching this conversation want to get in touch with you to learn more about the frogs mentality or the work that you do in HR, in the tech industry, or your work in education, how can they find you?
Oh, absolutely. I would love it. I am on LinkedIn. It's a great, professional networking site. You can just look me up, Laty Johnson, one word. Yeah, I'm on there. I'd love to connect with any of our audience members. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to explain your frogs mentality, this idea that you've been cultivating since you were young. Such a cool sort of way to end our series here. Audience, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. These conversations can be found on our social media, so on LinkedIn, as well as Instagram. So hop on over, frogs, and follow us on the UWM Alumni Association on LinkedIn or on Instagram. If you don't already, like or comment on any of the videos that are presented on there for a chance to win a gift card to Stone Creek Coffee here in Milwaukee. They're also on our website. The website is alumni.uwm.edu/sips and skills. So check out the videos there. Laty's will be on our site, as well as all of our previous conversations over the last year. So Laty, thank you again. Thank everyone for joining us, and go Panthers.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.